I am 100% sure by now that you have already prompted an AI thousands of times. You do it every day, sometimes multiple times an hour. And every time, I guess, you're probably making the same invisible mistake that costs your time, credibility, and money. Here is what usually happens. You ask ChatGPT something important and it gives you a confident answer. You trust it because it sounds smart and you act on that. Then you find out, sometimes it happens hours later, sometimes too late, that the answer was completely wrong. Or worse, you don't find it at all. And your team makes a decision based on that wrong answer. The client accepts information that is false and your reputation takes the hit. That happens thousands of times a day across companies because most people treat AI like it is thinking, like it is actually knows things. But in fact it doesn't. And that single misunderstanding, that one false assumption about how AI actually works, is what separates people who waste hours getting mediocre result from the people who get extraordinary results in a minute. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why AI falls the way it does, why it confidently says wrong things, and more importantly, how to use it in a way that makes it actually work for you instead of against you. The difference isn't small. It will change how you prompt, how much you trust the output, how many hours you save, and how many embarrassing mistakes you avoid. Some people picture an LLM as a sophisticated database. We will come to a definition of LLM later in this video. So people think that this is some knowledge which is stored somewhere and waiting to be retrieved. And you ask a question, it finds the file and returns the answer. But if the LLM were databases, they couldn't write poetry, for example, in styles they have never been trained on, or some other fancy things like generate working code using patterns they emerge after their training ended, or solve problems they have literally never encountered before. Databases retrieve, but LLMs generate new text, one word at a time. And that is the first misconception, but here is the second. Some people think that LLMs or AI tools are just the really smart search engines. And again, that's wrong because search engines find existing documents and return them. LLMs create entirely new text in real time. This surface looks similar, but the mechanism is completely different. The dangerous misconceptions comes third, and it is one that actually costs money. People assume LLM think like humans, reasoning step by step, weighting options, and understanding context the way we do. But again, they don't, and ask the same question twice and you will often get different answers. That's because randomness is intentionally built into the system. That gap between what people think LLM do and what they actually do creates real costs. Wasted time, chasing misinformation, credibility damage, and all the things I have already mentioned above. LLMs excel at generating coherent language because they are built to model language patterns. They struggle with pure logic because pattern matching isn't reasoning. They hallucinate because even then information is sparse or contradictory, the model must still predict something, and that prediction often sounds completely convincing while being completely wrong. It also explains why your prompts matter so much. You're not having a conversation with the mind. You are feeding context to a probability engine and influencing what it predicts next. Let's consider a simple but very common real-world scenario which could happen to everybody of us. Imagine that you are going to write to your boss about a missed deadline, and you want to delegate this task to the LLM, so it designed this message for you. The first step here would be something that we call tokenization. So your request gets broken into tokens, which are nothing but pieces of text converted into numbers. The phrase, "I need to write a professional email," becomes a sequence of numeric codes because the model doesn't see words. It sees numerical representations whose relationships were learned from the billions of training examples. On the second step, step 2, the context processing is stepping in. The model analyzes the entire context and weights what matters. Word boss carries more significance than the article A. A deadline is central. The system recognizes you are asking for professional tone and builds relationships between concepts while filtering noise. Step 3 is the probability calculations. Your tokens flow through those 175 billion parameters, which are mathematical calculations designed to estimate the next word. The goal isn't truth here, the goal is probability. So word dear gets a high score when the word yo, for example, gets almost none. And the model is asking itself, based on how humans typically write professional emails, what comes next? And then at step 4, sampling happens. The model selects a word from its probability distribution. Sometimes it picks the highest scoring option. Sometimes it introduces controlled randomnesses so you don't get identical responses every time. The variation is also why important outputs needs verification. Step 5 is iteration. Word dear is chosen, for example. Now it becomes part of your growing context. The model asks the same questions again, and again. What comes after the dear, for example? Maybe sir, maybe manager. It picks one and repeats again and again, 50 times, 200 times, 500 times, we don't know. Each new token triggers another complete round of calculations until the model predicts an ending signal or hits the length limit. And this whole process usually takes seconds. And that's it. No internal reasoning, no thinking, just one question repeated at extraordinary speed like, given everything generated so far, what's statistically most likely to come next? Repeat that thousands of times and the result is language that feels intelligent, because human language itself is dense with patterns. In 2026, LLM are embedded in tools you already use. Understanding how they actually works directly impacts how effective you become and how many mistakes you avoid. Gmail Smart Compose isn't thinking about your draft. It is predicting what you're statistically likely to type next, based on the patterns from millions of the emails. Better structure and clear context consistently produce better results. Treat it as a probability engine, not a mind, and it becomes more useful. GitHub Copilot powers roughly 15 million developers. And it's not reasoning through your code base, it is predicting code statistically likely to follow what you are written, based on millions of repositories. Developers report accuracy ranging from 27 to 57% depending on language and task. Sometimes it's brilliant, sometimes silently or completely broken. Understanding that difference makes you actually verify the output instead of trusting blindly. Google Search Overviews highlighted this perfectly. In May 2024, Google AI confidently suggested eating 1 rock per day and recommended glue to make cheese stick to pizza. Those weren't failures or intention or intelligence. They were hallucinations, which are basically confident predictions made from sparse, noisy, or contradictory information. The same pattern appears in your bank's chatbot. It doesn't understand your unique situation. It matches pattern from thousands of previous conversations and predicts likely response. Often useful, but sometimes dangerously wrong. For example, Air Canada chatbot promised $100 discount which didn't exist in the real world, and company had to pay it anyway. That shifting isn't just tools, it is the software model itself. We are moving from deterministic software, which are same input, same output every time, to probabilistic model, which is same input and statistically similar outputs with built-in variations. That shift changes how you verify information, how much you trust AI systems, and how safely you deploy them. Once you recognize LLM as a prediction machine, you stop over-trusting them. You start validating output and you provide clear context because you understand that you are guiding probability, but not talking to a thinker. That makes you dramatically more effective with AI than someone relying on assumptions. For now, I suggest to log this as a mental model. 3 statements are true and 3 myths that costs your money. True 1. Core function. LLM predict the next word by calculating statistical probability from patterns learned during training. That's the entire mechanism. No hidden intelligence layer, no human-style reasoning behind the scenes. True number 2. They fail with confidence. Ask the same question twice, get different answers. Controlled randomness is built into a process. That's why critical outputs, legal documents, medical recommendations, financial advice should be always verified. True number 3. They are already everywhere. Gmail, GitHub, Google search, support systems. Understanding them makes you immediately more effective with tools you are already using daily. Now let's switch to the misconceptions people still have in their minds and we are fighting against them. False number 1. False number 1. LLMs are databases. Reality. They generate from statistical patterns. Stop thinking it knows the answer. Start thinking it calculated the most likely answer. False number 2. They think like humans. In reality, there is no understanding or some kind of human-style reasoning, only probability calculation operating on learning patterns. False 3. This is revolutionary because of the underlying concept. In reality, the next token prediction existed for decades. The breakthrough came from the scale massive databases, enormous computing power and billions of parameters applying the same fundamental idea far more efficiently than before. Understanding that you are working with the prediction engine, not a mind, makes everything else click from prompting techniques to why hallucination exists and why they cost organization billions every year. If you found this video helpful, learned something new, or discovered ways to simplify your workflow, boost your productivity, or even save money, please subscribe my channel and hit the like, because it really helps me to grow and keep digging to discover new things and continue creating more content like this. Also, leave a comment below with your thoughts, questions and experiences. My goal is for us to learn, grow and build real AI expertise together, and your feedback is an important part of that. Thanks for watching and see you in the next videos. Laughing, dance all night.